Well, what Reagan wants to say is that it's true that there's something about humans that give us rights which explains why I can't experiment and violate and use you for the greater benefits of the greater good, the greater whole. Um, but what it is, it's not these adult human traits, it's the fact that we experience a life. We're subjects to a life, I believe is what he says. So we're conscious, we have desires, we have things that matter to us, we have values. Um, you could destroy the things that matter to me, you could kill the people I love, or destroy the things that I enjoy, or prevent me from engaging in the activities I enjoy, or cause me harm, and I'm going to recognize that and feel bad about that. You'll be frustrating my desires. You'll be destroying the things which I have, um, which I value, and I have the mental capacity to value things, and you could destroy the things I value, right? So there's lots of ways in which you can harm me. I have interests and goals, um, and he wants to say that it's that which gives us our rights. The fact that we have a conscious life, that we're experiencing a conscious life, and that we have things that matter to us, and we have the capability of valuing, and we have the possibility of being harmed. And if that's what gives us our rights, if that's what makes it such that you can't use me for the benefit of the greater good, well then, the mentally disabled have that, but so do animals, right? Plants don't. Plants are not conscious. Maybe lower level instincts or insects might be conscious, but we might go ahead and keep them off because who knows? I mean, I'll let Regan decide where to draw the line, right? But clearly the higher level animals, maybe dogs, right? Dogs can be sad, they can be happy, they can I can destroy their favorite ball and they'll notice that it's gone, right? So Regan's going to say that that's where your right not to be used, not to be treated as worthless and a tool for the benefit of some other group, right? That's where those rights come from. Is the fact that you're the conscious experiencer of a life, and if that's the case, then I can't use the benefits argument to justify animal experimentation, just like I can't use the benefits argument to justify experimentation on the severely mentally disabled or any normal adult human. Okay, I'm going to switch my notes here. So we can clearly see that this is essentially a Kantian position, right? Regan mostly has his sights the people who want to look at the consequences, the beneficial consequences, to justify their mistreatment of something, and he's going to say that that's not allowed. Right? If you have a right not to be used, then I can't use you no matter what the beneficial consequences are. And this is a very strong result. In the same way, this means that in the same way that I can't experiment on a severely mentally disabled person, one severely disabled person, to save thousands of lives, right? No matter how big beneficial the consequences are, I can't experiment and kill one mentally disabled person. I can't do it to an animal either, right? Even if it will save 1,000 humans, I can't experiment on a rabbit or a dog because they have the same sort of rights as any sort of human. So this is a very strong result on Regan's case. So let me end on this. Clearly, if we're just straight act utilitarians, we don't think rights exist. We just think that we should be producing good consequences, maximizing pleasure, maximizing happiness. And the best way to do that seems to be to experiment on animals and to benefit humans. Now, Regan's going to complain like, well, the act utilitarian, won't you have to also experiment on humans to benefit other humans? And it seems like the act utilitarian might be stuck there, right? That they're going to have to accept that. But there's a couple other positions we could look at, right? The rule utilitarian would say something like, well, if we start experimenting on humans to benefit the greater good, everyone's going to feel insecure. Everyone's going to feel scared, right? And so we have to have a rule that just says, for the greater good, you don't get to experiment on people, even if the experimentation would be for the greater good. Right? Because otherwise, everyone's going to feel insecure and worried and be worried that they're not going to go to the doctor. They're not going to go, they're going to be worried that there's going to lead to a number of bad results, right? So the rule utilitarian says that these rights and these side constraints on our activities come from the fact that it's through these rights that we're able to all feel secure, which is a requirement for us all to be happy. And so that's why I can't experiment on humans for the greater good. Now, of course, I could do that to animals and not undermine security, right? Animals, if I go and experiment on one cow on one, I go grab a whole bunch of cows and experiment on them, the word is not going to spread amongst the cows that I'm doing this, and they're not going to feel very insecure, and then I'll be miserable, right? But the rule utilitarian can say that that sort of thing will happen with humans, and that's why I can't experiment on humans. Now, I suppose Regan can raise the same sort of worries about treatment of the mentally disabled and the mentally and children, right? Because it's not quite clear if word's going to get down to them or something along those lines. Right? The same sort of worries that Regan has for the act utilitarian might also harm or cause problems for the rule utilitarian. But we can see that the rule utilitarian at least is able to say that humans have rights and that we can't mistreat them and that humans are different than animals. But whether they can actually draw that line right at the line between animals and humans, or if some human's going to get caught on the other side of that line, that's not so clear. Kant is going to actually disagree with Regan. I mean, Regan's giving a very Kantian argument. Regan is clearly sort of a Kantian ethicist, right? But Kant's going to say that our rights come from not the fact that we experience a life and that we're conscious, but that we have free wills, right? That we're I'm aware of myself, I'm aware of my own instincts, I can resist them and make decisions and act on principle instead of just be slave to my desires. And so Kant's going to say animals don't have that. Animals just run around chasing their strongest desire, maybe very intelligently, maybe saying, I want that food, how am I going to get it? And then come up with a very complex plan on how to get that food. But they're still slave to whatever their strongest desire is. And Kant's going to say that humans aren't. That I can have a really strong desire, but then on principle resist the desire and not give in to it. I set my own goals and animals don't, I suppose, is what Kant would say. And so Kant's going to say that we have rights, but it seems like he has a better chance of making a distinction between where rights come from so that animals don't have rights and humans do. Although, again, there's going to be this worry that the severely mentally disabled might not get rights. I mean, the mentally disabled up to a certain point, a certain level of mental disability, right? They're still going to have the ability to make decisions against their desires, not be slave to them, not act like an animal in that way. But there's a worry that the severely mentally disabled might fall outside of where Kant says rights come from, and then experimentation on them would be allowed. And Kant might just have to accept that, right? Just like the rule, these other positions, if they can't get around it, they either have to accept the consequence or they just have to give up on their position. So Regan is going to say, and the third position, which I want to talk about, who are going to appeal to, so we had the act utilitarian who says rights are nonsense. We had the rule utilitarian who had rights. We had Kant who had rights. And we've got Regan, who's a Kantian, but not Kant, who also says we have rights. But he's going to say that rights come from the fact that we're experiencers of a life, that we have these desires, and we can feel pain and suffering, and we can... it's our conscious lives which is what gives us these rights, the fact that we have a conscious life that gives us rights. So we have the utilitarians who say that rights come from, these are the rules that we have to follow in order to make everyone feel secure and so be happy. Kant's going to say rights come from the fact that we have free wills. We're self-aware, which gives us a free will, which means that we have rights. And Regan's going to say rights come from the fact that we're conscious experiencers of a life. And so all three of them are going to have rights. It's going to say, but Regan's going to say that on Regan's account at least, animals also have rights and have the same rights that humans do. And so he's going to say animal experimentation is not going to be allowed regardless of the benefits to humans. So he's got a strong resolve. But then, of course, the Kantian and the rule utilitarian also have a problem because it seems like the severely mentally retarded, while they can say we can experiment on animals, they're also in danger of end up having to say that we can experiment on the severely mentally retarded too, or mentally disabled. And of course, the act utilitarian, I don't know what to do with them. But all right, well, that's the lecture on Regan.